Alrighty. So, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It is 8:31, and this is the time for the Legislative and Human Resources Committee meeting of the Kent County Board of Commissioners. We'll go ahead and call to order, as I see we do have a quorum in attendance. First item of business is public comment. If there is anyone from the public that wishes to address the committee, you may do so. Please identify yourself through one of the mechanisms. This meeting is being handled and processed through the electronic format of Zoom pursuant to MCL 15.263. So if you do wish to address the committee, you may do so by identifying yourself with your hands up or through chat.
Chair, I do not see any hands raised in the chat, and the public comment email box has no messages.
All right. Good. We will then move on to the next item of business, which is approval of the minutes from March 9 of 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved by Burl.
Support LeGrand.
Okay.
LeGrand.
By Commissioner Burrell, supported by Commissioner LeGrand. Any discussion? If not, all those that support say yes.
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 Opposed? They are approved. Let's move to the next item of business, which is a report from Becky Beckler at Public Affairs Associates. I think I saw you on there, Becky. So if you would go ahead and take it from there, I appreciate that.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. Just by way of process, I wanted to let you know that this is the last week of session before a 2-week in-district session, which is otherwise known as spring break. But many legislators, especially those that are on the budget committee, will probably be in Lansing or meeting remotely to finalize their subcommittee budgets over the next 2 weeks. But this is the last week before a 2-week break. So we anticipate it to be a rather long week, long sessions. There's a lot of issues that both chambers want to accomplish. The first and foremost, I wanted to report that it does not appear that the any reason virtual meeting legislation will be extended. There's a sunset of March 30th. And there are 2 pieces of legislation that have been introduced, one in the House and one in the Senate, one by Representative Luke Meerman and the other by Senator Wayne Schmidt. Neither of those sponsors are able to get the support of their caucus to move the legislation. And even if they were to get the support today, the sunset would expire before they could move the legislation. And unfortunately, the governor does not have the authority to extend it. So I just wanted to report that it appears that on March 30th, that piece of legislation will sunset. Today is also the last day. If the Senate wants to reject the Department of Health and Human Services Director, Elizabeth Hertel, today is their day. If you will recall, in January, Elizabeth Hertel was appointed the DHHS director when Director Gordon resigned. She has been under 2 hearings through the advice and consent of the Senate. And they don't anticipate to have any more hearings, but today's the day where they can reject. It is my understanding that they do not have the votes to reject her. However, many in the Senate Republican caucus are demanding that the leader at least put the vote up to show where they want to vote. So there's probably going to be a pretty significant caucus today in the Senate. And that would just be on whether they want to put up a vote to reject her and fail. It will fail. So that'll take up a lot of the day today, but we anticipate that they will not be successful. So Director Hertel can continue to serve permanently in that spot. We also don't believe that the House and Senate will move on the remaining pieces of the supplemental that the governor vetoed. If you'll recall, the governor vetoed $840 million that were dedicated to education and about $300 million for vaccine and healthcare. She vetoed those because they were attached to other pieces of legislation that would have altered the governor's authority. One was Senate Bill 1, which reduced the executive orders to 28 days. And the second one was allowing local health officers to control whether schools and sports were to open across the state. So those monies were attached to both of those pieces of legislation. And when she vetoed it, those monies still need to be reappropriated. We believe that the House and Senate are negotiating amongst themselves. As in previous supplementals, they are not including the governor, the executive office, the state budget officer, Masseron, in these conversations. Their position is until the governor comes to the table and allows them to be present for some of the decision-making when it comes to opening the state, then they will not let the governor's office be part of the decision-making on the supplemental. So we still have a little bit of a standoff. On the last supplemental, the Senate Democrats refused to give, i.e. immediate effect to the supplemental, which basically eliminates the supplemental. Because if you don't get immediate effect, then the legislation doesn't take effect until 90 days after the legislature adjourns, which would be March 2022. So we have a lot of back and forth positioning. We're hopeful that after this 2-week spring recess, that the legislature can come together and work with the governor's office. We believe that some conversations, especially from the House, are going particularly well with the executive office and the governor specifically. So we're hoping that that relationship improves because we still have a budget that we need to get completed this year. We don't anticipate either that any of the subcommittees will report their budgets before they break, which is typically what they do. Typically, the House and the Senate exchange their versions of each subcommittee before they break for this 2 weeks, and they're not doing that. They're a little bit slower pace. That's why I referenced that I think many legislators will remain in Lansing, or at least virtually having conversations with their colleagues about what their subcommittee versions will look like. We believe both chambers have their targets, so each subcommittee has their target number that they need to hit. And so we think that probably the week or two after they return, you'll start to see subcommittee action on all of the budgets. This week, the House is planning to move off the House floor a pretty significant healthcare package. In January, the Speaker of the House announced a bipartisan healthcare package. It's about a 15 to 20 bill package, pretty aggressive, dealing with pharmacy benefit managers, loosening requirements for nurse anesthetists, optometrists. It's pretty significant, somewhat controversial. We believe that the House will go about passing those bills to the Senate today and tomorrow. Because it's bipartisan, we think that they will pass hopefully easily, but we're not sure because otherwise that could make for a very 2 long days of session. And then as we anticipate going forward for the rest of the spring summer session, there's significant packages that are just now coming to light, or we know that they will begin to come to light. This week, we believe that the Senate will introduce a pretty extensive elections reform package. They've referenced perhaps up to 30 bills. We don't know when, but we believe that sometime this week they will release that. Last Thursday, the Senate also introduced a pretty comprehensive changes, an education package that we've been told will move this week. However, I believe from conversations I had last night with leadership, they may be rethinking that. In the House, they anticipate introducing a pretty significant corrections reform dealing with productivity credits next Tuesday after they return. So we won't be able to get those pieces of legislation to you until after they return. So it appears that there's going to be a lot of significant packages of bills introduced either this week or when they return, with the hopes of addressing those through the spring and summer session. We're also watching a solid waste package that is moving through the House. Had its first hearing in the House committee. We believe that there's a chance that they will move it out of committee and maybe off the House floor. We're watching it. It's a reintroduction from last session, so most of the issues in it, incorporated in it, are not new. And I'm working with Kent County staff to make sure that it's in the form that works best for the county. And it looks like we just have a couple changes that we need to get through in that package. So that is what's going on in Lansing. I'd be happy to answer any questions if I missed anything.
Good, thank you. Well, you teed up an awful lot, so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
All right, any questions or comments from members? All right. Well, this is, I'm sorry, Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair Steck. I just had a quick question on the elections reform package that Becky had mentioned was going through the Senate, I believe. Could you provide just some details on what might be included in that?
Yes, Commissioner. We understand that it's going to actually be introduced this week. So at this moment, I don't have any details, but I'm hopeful that when they introduce it, I'll be able to send that out to you to review. Right now, they're being pretty quiet about what it will include. The fact that they've referenced 30 bills is a pretty significant package. So as soon as they release that and introduce it, I will make sure to get it out to you for your review.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, any other questions, comments from commissioners? Well, I don't see any, so good. Well, thank you, Becky. There's so many issues that you've raised that we're either going to spend hours here or we're going to move on. So I suspect that as we go forward here, we're going to be wanting to hear a lot more about the details of some of these as they evolve through the Senate and House. So very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to the next item of business, which is Board of Commissioners Administrative Office, the PMR, and I believe Performance Measurement Review, which I believe is going to be presented by, wait a minute.
Thank you. Good morning. And we'll let Natasha tee this up this morning for you. This is my, I don't know, I think this is probably the fourth time, I think it's fourth time I've done one of these for the Board of Commissioners Legislative and Human Resources Committee. This is, of course, a culmination of a lot of hard work of the staff. I wanted to give a big shout out to Mary Beth Van Til and to Jenny James and to all that have helped to put this presentation together for you today. We'll take you through it. We have the standard format that you've seen by all other department directors and elected offices. We will talk about how we align with your priorities, and we'll talk about our strategic goals, and we'll get into some of the measures. We've provided you a packet of information ahead of time that shares with you the intricate details of some of the metrics. And of course, on our website, there's plenty of information detailed there. And then we'll look at a look ahead following all of the updates that I will provide. So the administrator's office, of course, the administrator is appointed by the Board of Commissioners, and our job is to implement the board policy. We prepare an annual budget and recommendations. We also develop procedures and implement policies throughout the county, whether that be working with our health department, our Department of Public Works, or any other department that we're assigned to. Our job is to make sure that we have policies that are sound. We also provide legal counsel to all county departments, elected as well. Linda Howell and her team, and now we have a new group, Incident Defense, that's involved with that office. We provide many support, as well as the Board of Commissioners, the legal counsel and support they need. We do program and departmental analysis. We have a huge effort underway with our management analysts and our analytics team through Mary Beth Van Til. We have incorporated several tools, one being Qualtrics, a system that we use for surveys and really reaching far and wide to help departments, help them analyze how they can be more effective, as well as the office here. And of course, we coordinate the board's legislative agenda, which you all are talking about today, making sure that we identify what are the key priorities that we ought to be working with our legislators in Lansing and in Washington, D.C. We also provide general administrative support through the board office, through the Board of Commissioners office, as well as the administrator's office. The team of Sherry Hall, Pam Van Kuren, Natasha Ramblas, and Lisa Buggs, that group. They do an outstanding job in supporting all of us. Let's move to the next slide. So here are the 5 major strategic goals, and these are very, very high level, if you will. We have several goals that aligned within each of the departments that are beneath the administrator's office, from human resources to fiscal services to information technology, to equalization and mapping, veteran services, community action, communications. All of those departments have their own individual goals, and we review those goals quite frequently. We meet every month, that group, but these are the main themes that are within the office. We communicate consistently and frequently. That's one of the main goals. We want to do a better job at that. We want to encourage strategic partnerships, and we're very proud of the way that we've been able to do that over the last year. Maintain the financial health of the county. Very important to you all, as well as everyone within the 25 departments and 5 elected offices. Promoting culture of performance excellence. Really something that this county, unlike a lot of counties, have really made it an important priority. And we're a best practice among counties across the country in that area. Protect the county from liability. We often find ourselves entangled in many legal battles, and our job is to make sure that we minimize the impact that it has on the county financially, as well as our credibility and so forth, and that's very important to the county. Let's move to the next one. Here we see a compilation of things that we are doing. I'm not going to show every item. You have the packet, but I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that we do take pride in how we communicate and interact with our Board of Commissioners. We do a survey each year, and I'm very fortunate that this team continues to excel in this area of performance, communication, follow-up, getting back with folks, getting them information that's clear and concise. And we've improved that metric at 4.7. Then you can look at some of the other metrics, the cost per residence. We take pride in minimizing the cost that we incur to provide services. We're a little bit above our goal, but $250 per residence is a pretty good number for most counties that run well. And if you look at the others, you'll see there the number of board action requests that were approved. We take pride in making sure that we get our information to you on time and that it's accurate and thorough so that you can make good decisions. And of course, our credit rating continues to be AAA with standards and Moody's and Standards and Poor's. I'm sorry, Moody's and Standards and Poor's. It's 22 consecutive years. We do tout that, but there are other things that we're proud of, which is making sure that our audit each year is done on time by June 30th. And we're very fortunate this past year we had 0 findings and the audit was conducted 100% remotely. Very proud of the fact that the team, the financial team, the fiscal services team, along with all of the other players in the administrator's office, were able to pull that off. I give most of the credit to the fiscal services team, but it can't happen without all the departments working together. And we make sure that the budget recommendations are adhering to the finance department, the fiscal services department. Make sure that those budget recommendations are sound each year when we put the budget in front of the Board of Commissioners. And so we're 100% there. Let's move to the next slide. Some other key performance metrics, and these are mostly from the board office. We make sure that we get things out timely, that we work hard to make sure that the standing committees are provided their information so that they can act on them. Number of board resolutions prepared. There's a lot of preparation that takes place. You see the numbers there. I won't bore you with the detail, but there's a lot that goes into making sure that this happens. Let's go to the next one. And I wanted to talk about now, just turn your table, if you would, please, to the significant accomplishments. I wanted to go through these, quite a few of them. I wanted to recognize the fact that the Board of Commissioners, the The COVID Relief Subcommittee did an outstanding job. We supported that effort. As you all know, you were involved with a lot of the activities to put that in play, working with our partners from the Chamber of Grand Rapids, United Way, Right Place, and others. Just a tremendous amount of effort. We stood up the Small Business Recovery Program, working with the Chamber. We stood up the nonprofits grant program, working with United Way. And there's just a ton there. And I want to just say thank you to the board for your due diligence and your hard work. We set the bar high in terms of how we got that done. And $114.6 million was allocated, along with the 190 general fund dollars. We had 2 budgets operating at one time. I'm very pleased that we were able to get that done. Another very important piece, making sure that our website and our social media posts were live and strategic. This past year, a ton of work. Lori Latham and her team have done an outstanding job working together. We've pulled in other partners within the county, outside of the county, to make that happen. And you will see our website now. It is very dynamic and live. And we're very fortunate to have the team that we have working with us to do that. Response to social unrest. Last year, when there was a fever pitch around the country, we were not exempt from that, the issues that were happening. We stood up a staff town hall to discuss the sentiments, the fears, the struggles, and answer any questions and any relative county policies and practices. And there's continued work in that area. I just want you to know there are classes that we're continuing to have to support the concerns. And then there's more that we're doing, which you will be hearing from me today through the action request to stand up the chief inclusion officer. And so I just wanted you to realize that there's a lot that goes on to make that happen. Let's go to the next one. This is one that I'm really, really proud of, how we have inserted a data scientist through the collaboration with Matt Wolfer and his team. Initially, we had a steering committee. We looked at how we can be more effective in addressing the data needs of the county, all departments, sheriff's office, the courts, health department, others. And we stood this process up. We have a great analytics team. We have improved the way that we place information on our website and how we dissect information. You'll see that there's a lot of new data and ways in which we interact with the public in that area. Let's go to the next one. Social media campaigns. You are involved with this. Board of Commissioners were asked to take part in the huge effort to take out Challenge Chair Boulder. Was involved with that, pushing that. The Close to Home campaign, the Stay Well campaign, I Love You So and More campaign. These were all big hits for the county, and they continue to push these things to make sure that the public understands the importance of staying safe and proactive with COVID-19. Indigent defense, our legal department, our team of Craig Paul and Linda Howell and others are very involved with this effort. And this is the first year that we were able to get this implemented. And you can see the cases that were assigned there. 70 attorneys and 2,258 felony cases that were logged this past year. I really want to give a shout out to Craig. He used to be our information technology director and made the switch, moved over into the business of legal. And outstanding job there, Craig. Agriculture preservation. We made the decision to move a contractor position within the administrator's office, and it's proven to be a good move. This person that we've hired, Matt Channing, has done an outstanding job. This past year received the $200,000 grant award from Michigan Department of Agricultural Rural Development for conservation easements. And he's part of this administrative team and is locked in. And of course, now they're working on other discussions around TDR. You heard the presentation last week. Jenny James and Suzanne Schultz presented to you as a board of what we're doing in triangulating the efforts around agriculture, preservation, and housing, and so forth. So really look forward to seeing all of that come to fruition. Behavior health. Vice Chair Stack, others came to the county several years ago via Network 180 and their board to ask for the county's assistance in partnering with stakeholders in the community. And we stood up the Population Health Consortium. We have a strong partnership, as you all have been involved with supplanting funding to support the consultants that we've had, TriWest initially, and now TDR Solutions, making recommendations that are going to change the way that we respond to people in crisis and mental health. And there's some really exciting news that will be presented here soon, hopefully, regarding that partnership with Metro Health, Spectrum Health, Mercy Health, Network 180, Unrest, Hope Network, and Forest View are still working with the county. We're making that happen. We facilitate those discussions, and thanks to Adam London and his team, as well as our office, Lori Latham, and others who have helped to make sure that that's gone well. Sherry Hall and scheduling the meetings, that's a lot to do. But very excited how this county has responded to that and has been the integral link to a shared plan for how we deal with this issue. It will be one of the kind when it's completed. So thank you, Chair Stack, Vice Chair Stack, for your work on that and support for that. Ready by 5 early childhood millage, mobilized the Ready by 5. Several of the board members were involved with this effort, and Sandra Ghostin Jones, of course, Matthew Van Zetten prior to her, and of course now we have a dynamic, first of its kind early childhood millage that's reaching 0 to 5 youth, and what a dynamic process. Commissioner Skaggs, Commissioner Sparks have done an outstanding job supporting that effort, and we're very pleased with the direction it's taken, working with the First Steps organization, formerly the Children's Commission. And the county was very integral in getting that stood up years and years ago. Let's move to the next one. And here you have them. Here's the A-team. The A-team responsible for everything that we are talking about here and supporting you. We reorganized the organization. We continue to refine it and continue to supplant it. Years ago, we didn't have the structure that we have now. And I thank you for your support in making sure that we have the horsepower to get it done. And again, Commissioner Boulder, Chair Boulder, and I talked again yesterday. She's always pushing to get it better. And so far, we've adhered to listening and supporting and driving for more excellence. So each and every week, each and every day, our goal is to make sure that we're more successful than we were in years previous. So really appreciate the team. You see them all there. Everyone are key to the organization's success. So thank you, staff. A look ahead, and you are involved right now as we talk through the legislature's priorities. We want to make sure that those get aligned with their lobbyists, with Potomac Strategies, and then of course PAA, who have been with us for a number of years. We work together to make sure that those issues are addressed. So we're looking forward to following through on those items. Succession planning. We last summer actually, stood up a succession planning process here at the county. The Human Resources Department, our administrative office, worked together to supplant first of its kind that I'm aware of in the state in terms of succession planning. We benchmark other counties, Oakland County, others, and to say, what are you doing related to making sure that we have bench strength when people retire? And it's a very extensive process. At some point, I think it'd be good for the board to hear and understand how that process works. Very proud of how that's moving forward under Amy Rolston and her team, and Jenny James and Mary Beth Van Til, the whole team that are working on that. So thank you. And the building projects, Algiano has presented to you several times the three main projects: the North County campus, the North Substation, of course, North County Health Clinic, the parks offices. Those projects are in play. And then hopefully we can get moving on the fleet services replacement towards the end of the year, begin that process as well. So that's very critical. You will begin to see dirt being moved and things happening in both locations at the Parks Administration Building, as well as North County Campus. The millage planning process, never too late, too early to start planning. And so we're already doing that right now. We're making sure that the 2 millages that are up for renewal in 2022, that we are out ahead of that. There's been discussions already. We're going to be meeting with folks from the Veteran Services Committee this week, I think, this or next week, making sure that we're ahead of that game. And of course, we've been given another gift, the rescue plan funding allocation. We are in the process of developing an approach for that. I understand Commissioner Bolter will be talking with you all soon about your insight on how you see that process going. But we're in the process developing a plan to execute the appropriations of those dollars, allocation of those dollars, the tracking and the monitoring and reporting. We're improving, beefing up our financial tracking systems to make sure that we reduce the time and the wait and so forth on this next round of funding through A360 and other tools that we have. We have a county phone system that is being replaced, a legacy phone system, which will give people much more fluidity and agility to receive calls, a whole new platform. You will be hearing more about that. Pro by chance or choice, there will be further follow-up from the work session that took place a few weeks ago around housing and development rights and affordable housing and so forth, working with our townships, our cities around that topic. So we're looking forward to continuing conversation, pulling groups of people together to talk about that. The broadband subcommittee, Chair Boulder established that subcommittee, and we are continuing to assist that effort, which we're going to see hopefully increased availability of broadband throughout the rest of the county, throughout the whole county. Operational excellence and inclusion, tremendous effort. This idea of constructive accountability that we coined years ago, we've incorporated in Visio. We want to make sure that we elevate the understanding of performance, the importance of performance, getting results and outcomes, and just continuing to set a high standard for effective local government operations. The Chief Inclusion Officer will be presented to you today, and hopefully the board supports this effort going forward, but we really, truly want to leverage the talents and potential of our diverse workforce and ensure that we have equitable services for the entire community. That will be coming forward. The person will be coming on board hopefully soon, and we can really see some great effort there. And then, of course, we're transitioning from my role this year in July, and the process is underway to find a new administrator controller. So we've been very supportive of the board and their effort. Our Human Resources Department has tag teamed with Chair Boulder to make that happen, and that process is underway. So look forward to that coming to a conclusion in July. And that is it. I could talk for another hour or two if you'd like, but I will stop there.
Well, we'll see if there's enough questions. It may go for an hour, but probably not. You mentioned this is your 5th one. It's also notable this may be and probably is going to be your last presentation of performance measurements. So thank you, of course, for those years of passion and commitment and hard work on behalf of the county. So great. Let's open this up if there are questions or comments from any of the board members. committee members. While they are thinking of how to formulate those questions, I do have a follow-up with Wayman on the CARES Act allocation. You did mention that we went through that process last year and allocated $114 million through the board, through the county. Is there an intention to come back at some point to sort of report on the outcomes from all of those various expenditures? Some of those involve programming initiatives through some of the nonprofit allocations. Will we see something like that eventually?
Yes, sir. In fact, we've actually had, we had a draft of that at the beginning of the year, and Chair Boulder is aware of that. We're going to be publishing something on that very, very soon. So that everyone sees, the board sees, and the community sees what we accomplished, what this board accomplished, what the county's departments accomplished. So that, yes, that is on the table. We will make sure that that gets published. Hopefully will be published within the next week or two.
Great. I think that would be that'd be wonderful. One for our own sense to go back and review how we've pushed through that challenge. That would, best of my knowledge, we've as a board never gone through that kind of process before. So
Never. I mean, at one point, Commissioner, back in, when Pat Malone was the board chair, there was $120 million I think it was 120 million in the fund balance. And that was the only other time in history that I think the board set up a subcommittee to deal with how do we allocate dollars that are beyond the general fund. But they did stand that up because there was such a huge fund balance here at the county compared to what the general operating budget was needed. Yes, that's the first time.
And it proved to be so easy for us, it looks like they may ask us to do it again.
Can you wait until I'm, no, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Not my timing, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you're right.
So one other question, you did, thank you for showing us the photographs of the team, and it kind of reminds us of the breadth of that team. That's great. But are we fully staffed now in the administrator's office?
I'm going to say yes, because except for the person that we're going to be placing in the chief inclusion officer position. If I had our others, we'd have 5 more people working at the administrator's office. We could use 5 more people, but I know that's not realistic. And, you know, we have to toe the line like every other department. And, you know, from our courts and, you know, our prosecutor and our clerks and others, sheriff, we have so much demand. We have so much opportunity to do well, to do good. And we get questioned, we get asked an awful lot to step into issues and areas. We're doing things we've never done before. And, you know, this whole business with the mental health crisis system, that whole effort, we are leading in a different way. And that takes talent and smart people. So what I figured, if you can't give us, you know, support, we're just going to have to make people smarter. So that's what I try to do. I try to push this team. We meet often. I challenge them a lot, and they know, and they're still smiling though.
Yeah.
You know, you see the nice side of me. Most of the time, you see the nice side of me. You don't see this other very competitive and highly charged individual.
Where would you have learned that, Wayman?
I don't know, but they seem to respond well. But there are times I suspect that they're saying, "Can you give us a little bit more help?" And so we got to always be thinking about that.
Well, that's always a difficult balance between maintaining appropriate efficiency in operations and stretching yourself so thin that you're not accomplishing some of the things that we want to accomplish. So,
Yeah.
all right. I think that Commissioner Hennessy has her hand up.
I do. Thank you for this report, Wayman. It was interesting to listen to, and it augments, the written materials that we have received, which are just, they're written materials. They're just kind of flat. I'm wondering if given that you're doing the administrator's office right now, we saw pictures of everybody. We have a very new on board of an assistant administrator, and I see that his name is showing up on our list, and I'm wondering if we might be able to meet this newest person. Use this opportunity.
Yes. Paul, are you out there? Paul Peter? Yes?
Yes, I am.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Let me introduce you. Paul Peter.
Sure.
And what a unique individual. We're very pleased that Paul has joined us. Carol, I don't know if you've met him yet, but we're very happy that he's here. So introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Paul Peter, obviously, and this is my 4th week on board, and I'm excited to be here. And I bring with me over 28 years of experience of working with the YMCA in a variety of communities, and I'm just trying to learn as much as I possibly can working for the county here, and I'm truly excited to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for introducing yourself, Paul.
He's very
No doubt.
shy. He comes off very shy and low key. You should know that, but he's got some significant things that he's accomplished. Some awards that he's received, the servant leadership that he embodies is recognized by others. So just so you know that about Paul.
Yeah, well, we'll break him of that shyness soon enough. All right, any other comments or questions?
No other hands are raised.
All right, I don't see any. This group is eager to get to work. All right. Thank you again for that presentation, Wayman, and again, noting that this is likely your last such report, and thanking you for the incredible contributions and passion you brought to that job.
And I wanted to say thank you, board, for your support of me. Thank you so much.
All right, let's move to the next item, which is item number 5 from the administrator's office, an action item, which has already been alluded to several times. So Wayman, if you could go ahead and present that action item.
Sure. This is a request to the Board of Commissioners that we establish the role of Chief Inclusion Officer for Kent County. The shift in organizational and public response to issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and changing demographic trends and various social movements have brought more visibility to an increasing demand for the county to be a more inclusive workplace and service provider as well as a leader in this area. As a result of these changes, the county administrator is requesting that we establish the Chief Inclusion Officer role. This role will ensure we had strengthened the coordination of our diversity, equity, inclusion efforts and the achievement of the county's core value of embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion. This in turn will ensure the successful implementation of the county's strategic priorities and position the counties for multi-generation economic growth, improve delivery of responsive services to areas with growing or changing demographics, enhance recruitment and retainment of diverse talent that reflects the community we serve, and to provide our residents with equitable access to services. Kent County is uniquely positioned to take leadership role in partnering with others in the community to improve opportunities for traditionally underrepresented residents to have a greater access to opportunities and factors that contribute to a high quality of life. This role will also ensure we further cultivate a welcoming, diverse, and inclusive culture throughout all aspects of the county's internal and external community. And I'd just like to say that we have been working on this for the past year. Since, we got hit with COVID, but back around June, the county executive staff and myself, along with the sheriff and prosecutor and others, sat in a room, 3A at the time, and talked through this concept. And then, of course, Chair Bolter and I have discussed this several times. There's a memo that talks about that that's attached to this request. And my sense is that this is really critical. There's great support for it. from our elected offices, our drain commissioner, our sheriff, our prosecutor, and our courts. You know, this is time for us to supplant this role to ensure that we are as proactive and thoughtful about how we deal with this change that we have to address. So there you go.
All right, well, thank you for presenting that and giving us some of the background on the lengthy conversations at various levels, including leadership on all of this. So is there a motion to approve that
Motion,
action item?
motion by McLeod.
Is there support?
Support by Hennessy.
Okay, it is moved and supported. Is there discussion? I think I see that Commissioner Skaggs had his hand up first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to thank the Administrator Britt and his team and Chair Bolter and everyone who was involved in this. I think, you know, as Wayman said, this is remarkably important to see the county take a leadership role on this. And I think it is evidence that last week's statement is already being put into concrete action to improve the lives of everyone in Kent County. Just a quick question on what you know, this will look like a little bit. We are essentially adding this to the current position, and that position will be taking more of an HR role. Is that the plan, Wayman?
Yeah, so this, the current efforts around the county are kind of spread out and sporadic, if you will. We have in our Human Resources Department, Darius Quinn, who has served in some of the role of equity and inclusion, but not to the extent that we need. Tamber Budstons, she's in learning development. She also is very involved with a lot of the activities that this person will take on. Our health department, there's a huge effort out there. Teresa Branson, Adam London, and that team. The administrator's office, myself, along with Lori Latham, along with the deputy administrator, others are involved in a number of issues. It's just, so it doesn't reside in one specific area. People typically look to Darius Quinn. The history on that role, Darius Quinn was implemented as the labor relations / EO manager for human resources, and of course, very involved with the Cultural Insight Council. But over the years, more and more pool was in this area of diversity, equity, inclusion outside of the county as well. We have to maintain our focus on the labor relations, our EEOC role, all the issues from a regulatory, statutory standpoint and dealing with employee labor relations issues. That's a critical role, and he does an outstanding job in that area. We need somebody, though, that really takes hold of all of the disparate efforts, works with human resources and works with health department and works with the board of commission, works with the sheriff's office and the prosecutor's office, so that we have a singular focus 24/7 around this topic. So this position, we are taking the approach of identifying positions within the sphere of administration, within the 7 or so departments that are under my jurisdiction, to identify this person within those roles. So we're looking at several departments where we're going to re-engineer how we get things done, from IT to health to human resources to administrator's office, to supplant the position without adding a staff, adding an FTE. And so we're talking through that. We've got some agreement around that already, and it'll get finalized. But that's where we're headed.
Great. Thank you, Wayman. I appreciate that insight on that.
Welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Barrell.
Yes, Commissioner Skaggs, actually, great question. I think a lot of things got answered for me there. Question for you, I think, on the information that you sent. It did mention that this is not a mandated position. I thought there was some legislation out there that would mandate this position. I don't know if that got passed, but there was talk, and will that be an unfunded mandate from what we know? Or maybe I'm just, again, I think that was a pretty large bill that was passed by Congress here. I'm sure we didn't read all the pages, but what do you know about that?
I'm not familiar with the particular bill, but I get your point. Oftentimes, a lot of these bills come through for the federal or state, and then we have to act and put things in motion, and then they're not always funding tied to it. But no, this is not an edict from the federal government or state government anywhere else. It's really based on your and the Board of Commissioners and my understanding of what we need to do to perform as a county with the general fund dollars that we have. So this will be general fund supported. We're like I've said before, we're always looking for ways in which we can do things better, smarter, more efficient. And I've always had a mindset of continuous improvement. How do we restructure, reorganize, supplant resources to get things done? So in this case, this position is going to get supplanted without any federal or state funding. Of course, we do receive revenue sharing from the state of Michigan. We capitalize on those dollars. There's about 12 million that we receive that's supplanted in our general fund, but nothing directly related to this position. This is coming strictly directly from this office.
Right. Did I kind of gather that there's a lot of these things that we're doing kind of independently within different organizations of the county, and perhaps you're gonna find the best candidate kind of within already that is doing this for their particular area?
I think so. Yeah, good question, Commissioner Burrow. A good comment on that. Yes, I think that, as I explained earlier, with a number of these folks that are already in this world, question is, who of them would be interested? There's a lot of experience. There's a lot of knowledge base that's within the county. They understand the culture. For me, that would be the right candidate, because oftentimes what happens, they will come into an organization and not always really understand the dynamics, the politics. There's politics in any organization, whether you want to admit it or not, and the various cultures that exist. They have to be attuned to that. They have to be sensitive to that. And so hopefully, whoever that person is, they will rise to the top. They will submit their application to take on this role.
And you did you kind of mention as well, you wouldn't replace them where they're coming from? So ultimately, this is not really a net increase for us?
Correct. What I've asked, and I challenge my team all the time, instead of looking at what we got to do to add folks, let's look at what we can do to grow people and give folks an opportunity to shoulder some more of the responsibility. We may pay them a little bit more money, but we have the budget to do that. But we don't have to add to make that happen. And so that's what I've challenged the team to do, to look within, to say, how can we restructure? So I don't want to get out too far on that right now, just because we still have to go through the process of finalizing and vetting it with these various departments that we're working with.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. I think we have to give employees a path for growth and a path for promotion and bettering themselves. So I love the fact that, again, we're looking and probably find somebody within that we can grow into this role. So I know that means a lot to our staff, and knowing they have a path for improving themselves. So thank you. Answered my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McLeod.
Just a quick question. Well, thanks, Chair Steck, for allowing me the chance to ask a couple questions, and thanks, Wayman, for putting this really important position forward and creating it. I just had a couple quick questions. Phil and Dan asked a couple of them, so that helped clarify a few things. But so I just wanted to be clear though, is there going to be an external sort of nationwide search for this position, or will it be structured as an internal search only?
At this time, it's an internal search. If we do not find who we are looking for within, we will take it outside. But I want to give the opportunity to those who have actually been doing the work to some extent, those who may have the talent and the ability to take it to the next level. Let's go through that process first. I have looked at other counties, municipalities, and also in private industry, AT&T, Dow, chemicals, others who are touted to be some of the best in the business, and looked at how they've morphed these roles into existence. And several have actually done what I'm thinking of, which is to deploy talent within. Dow, for instance, they identified an individual who weren't even involved with this work. They were more business, one of the business units, and had no background in this work. But they've been very successful. Her name is Karen Carter. In fact, I plan on meeting with her soon. But she's the Chief Inclusion Officer there. So the way I'm looking at it is a very similar approach, identifying the talent within. If we can't find the talent within, then we'll go outside.
Okay, thank you for answering that. And second follow-up question, will this person, since there'll be, I'm assuming a bit more externally focused, will they also be have a direct avenue to the board to provide us with some insights and updates on what's going on, or how will that reporting, I guess, structure look?
One of the key things identified in the job description that's been drafted is to do the very thing you just talked about, where they would make sure they would be each year and on a regular basis communicating with the board, making sure that the board has understanding and awareness and provide input. So that's in the job description, like it are at the top of the list.
Okay, great. And then final question is, so this person, it seems like will be taking on some duties that are some things that are being done by other staff that you mentioned are currently in this work. So will first thing I guess is, will those people that are doing that work be housed within a new department that this person will oversee? Will there be a budget? I guess I'm trying to figure out if this position will come with resources that allows the work that we're talking about to be done, because it's.
So the way that it's structured today is that they would have access to the resources within the administrator's office, the suite of support staff that we have that I mentioned earlier. In addition to that, they will work with our human resources department, our health department, and others. And as we do today, there are several subcommittees or initiatives that are underway within each of these departments. That person will be aligned with those, and then we will determine what more do we need to put in place from a staffing support mechanism beyond what we have today. But for now, they're going to come in like I did when I became an assistant administrator for the county. I had to identify my resources and identify how I was going to live and breathe and operate and within the administrator's office, and it worked fine. So we share the resources here from legals, teams. We have Lisa Bugs, we have Sherry Hall, Pam Van Kuren, we have Natasha Rambless, and of course, all the others that are in the suite of the Operational Excellence Group. We have Sandra Gosen-Jones, we have Jennifer Hedrick, Mary Beth Van Til, we have Mike Fortman. All of those groups are going to be tapped for supporting this role, because they will report directly to me, just like the deputy administrator does now, just like the previous assistant administrators reporting directly to the administrator, and they have access to those resources to make that job work. And a communications team, that's right, I forgot, communications team, that's the other part of it. So they have access to the communications team, Lori Latham and her team, Steve Kelso, Lori Latham, and that team.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering those questions. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner LeGrand.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to express my appreciation for this role. And I guess a cynical person might say, oh, the county thinks they have, by creating this role, they've taken care of the diversity, equity, and inclusion problem, and this is our response. And I say, you know, I think it's up to us to make sure this is a really vigorous effort, and that it's a starting point and not our solution to the pressures that might be existing right now, but really feel like it's a deep commitment. So I'm excited about the potential, and I think it's up to us to prove that we're really putting some muscle behind it. And I guess I want to echo what Commissioner McLeod said, where I am really hoping for a lot of back and forth with the commissioners, because I feel that with the sort of constituent feedback that we get, that there's going to be so much potential for growth in this position and some real action on the ground by having a lot of back and forth with us, and how the residents in our districts are experiencing issues where a DEI director could really make a difference. So just want to echo her thoughts that we need a lot of board and commissioner interaction with this position as it goes forward.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. So I understand the goal here, like with this role to, as Wayman said, the continuous improvement aspect of the creating a truly inclusive workplace. I have a great fear with making it a specific role though, and I'll give you a personal story from just an hour ago here. So I was on, just prior to joining this call, I was attending a technology conference in Europe. One of the weird side effects of COVID is it's now easy for me to join in on conferences that otherwise would have been difficult to travel to. So I was attending this conference, and the talk I was in was a gentleman from Copenhagen talking about neurodiversity in the workplace, specifically with those on the autism spectrum or with ADHD or other things. And it was kind of a shocking thing to me of like, why haven't I really thought about this before? Like that, there's a huge, population of talented and smart people that are not neurotypical. And it's surprising to me that I actually haven't thought of this before. Given I have, one son with autism, another, with dyslexia, so why did it not occur to me? And I think that's the important thing that I think everyone, in this meeting agrees with me on, is like, it's a job of all of us to be inclusive and develop an inclusive, workplace where people, with different backgrounds, different history, different abilities, are able to contribute and give their unique contribution. And my fear with making it a specific role is I get the counterbalancing goal that, Wayman, you described so well, is sometimes the efforts are spread out and sporadic, I think is what you said, and that's a real challenge, and that this being a role would help with that challenge, but my great fear is that over time, that it being one specific role within the organization makes it seem to people, whether consciously or subconsciously, well, now no longer is that my job. It's now, so-and-so's job.
Yeah.
And so from that fear, I think I'm against this, just from that standpoint of it, is a great danger over time of making it something that's organizationally, not my job, because it's somebody else's job.
Well, can I respond to that just for a moment?
I'd appreciate it.
Yes, one of the things that I mentioned in my letter, I believe I mentioned something to the effect that we wanted to stand up this idea of a employee affinity groups, along with our employee wellness committee and our cultural insight council. This is something that I'm pulling from Dow and from AT&T and others who've been at this for a while, the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association. And what they've done, they figured out what you just said, Commissioner, in that this is not a one shoe fits all scenario. We have to think about it broadly. There are groups that oftentimes, because we're paying attention to one group, we don't pay attention to the other groups, and then the whole idea of inclusion gets sidetracked. The very thing that we intended to do doesn't happen. And so you've got to have that intention in mind right up front. And so that's what I'm going to do, making sure that we do not, because the point that you make about these individuals who are very what I would consider left brain thinking within the organization versus right brain thinking. These individuals need the same type of support and inclusion that the rest of the other organization. I'm more of a right brain person, so it's mean that the left brain person doesn't count, shouldn't be supported within the organization, as well as people like myself who speak up and speak out a lot. We're more not as reserved. And so we need to make room for those folks at the table and support them as well. So in conjunction with succession planning, constructive accountability, this whole performance excellence work that we've established, along with this person who's going to come in and take all of these things that are in the universe of the county and say, how do we ensure that no group gets left out, no group gets left behind? That's their job. It's not to deal with just this thing called the racial unrest issue, for instance. It is not to deal with that. It's to deal with how do we deploy the talents and abilities of the entire organization to the optimum levels. That's what that role is. And that's why I have been hesitant putting in place, simply because I didn't want it to get off on that other track. It needs to stay within the concept that every single asset, and I call talent in the organization, every employee, an asset. You're an asset, Commissioner. The judges are an asset to the county. What can we do to empower them, to enable them to reach their full potential? That's that position. This is what this person's going to be doing. And so that will be written up in that job description. That will be in the interview. If they can't align with that, they're not going to be the person in that role. And so that's where we're headed. I don't want people taking this role on thinking that now I get to, go off kind of on my own thing. It has to be within the context of what I just shared.
Thanks, Wayman. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Hennessy.
Thank you. My question is more procedural. On this, it says under the cost and funding recommendations, there's no cost or funding required. But I am wondering if there is a plan for a job reclassification as we find somebody, to take on additional duties for this. And, and that would also necessitate a pay reclassification. What, just can you address that whole idea of how
Yes.
it will be handled?
Yes. So yeah, we would have to create a classification for this. We have a classification drafted as we speak now, a job description as well. But the dollars that are within the administration budget supports this position. We don't need to go back and ask the board for an appropriation to land this spot.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Welcome.
we don't need to go through that, but the person will be given consideration for the extras that will be.
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely, Commissioner.
And
They
then
will
I
be-
assume, yeah, then I would assume that if it's all too much, given what they're currently assigned to do and this position, that there will be other, readjustments that will sort of follow along.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. As we make these adjustments within the organization, the administration group, which includes all those departments that I talked about, those adjustments will be made to make sure that they counterbalance and that we give credence to what needs to be done in all those departments. And again, every budget year we assess what is the resource needs of the county. So as a new administrator steps in, they may have a different idea about this. They may say, in addition to this position, we want to add, these other supports around it and so on and so forth. But right now, my belief is that we can get this position landed without having to add additional resources to make this happen. We can handle this within.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? I don't see any other hands up. All right, if not, Pam, will you go ahead and do a roll call on this?
Sure, and when I call your name, can you please state the location that you're participating remotely? Commissioner Burrow,
I am located in the city of Granville. Yes.
Commissioner Hennessy,
Yes, I am in Sheboygan County.
Commissioner Coleman,
No, and I am in Cascade Township this morning.
Commissioner LeGrand,
Yes, I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana this morning.
Commissioner McLeod,
Yes, Kentwood, Michigan.
Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes, Granville, Michigan.
Commissioner Skaggs,
Yes, Lansing, Ingham County, Michigan.
Commissioner Teal,
Yes, Grand Rapids Township, Kent County, Michigan.
and Chair Stuck.
Yes, and I am here from City of Walker, Kent County.
And that motion passes.
Very good. Let's move to the next item, which is another action item, number 6. Again, Wayman, if you would present the action item.
Yes, sir. This is a request of the Board of Commissioners to approve the 2020-21 federal and state legislative priorities. Legislative and Human Resources Committee Chair Stan Steck and staff from the Administrator's Office met with department directors and our external federal and state government relations consultants to review the 2020 successes and discuss issues in the upcoming legislative session. Following these discussions, a proposed list of legislative priorities was presented at board work sessions on Thursday, February 11th, Tuesday, February 23rd, for all commissioners to further discuss the priorities. Based on the feedback from these 2 board work sessions, a comprehensive list of federal and state priorities was developed. Administrator's Office will continue to monitor these issues and seek the board's direction on any additional priorities that may arise during the legislative session.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved by Ponstein.
Support Coleman.
Moved and supported. Is there a discussion? Questions, comments? Commissioner Coleman? Is your hand, maybe your hand's up from before?
No, I did raise my hand again. Thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
okay.
I'm just looking here. So I was rereading last night, and I think these are, been through the process for all of us to review and everything and look good. I did notice one minor typo. Wondered if I could. Now I can't find it. So give me a minute here, Chair, and I'll find it and then raise my hand again.
Okay, and if you don't, if you think it'll affect your vote, then we'll dig it up for sure. But,
Okay, sounds good.
all right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you for your work on this. I think this is a good start to the process. We've got clear marching orders, so to speak, for our lobbyists in DC and Lansing, and I look forward to working to keep updating this as new issues arise and new bills get introduced.
As will be the case. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Coleman found the typo.
I
Commissioner
did
Coleman.
indeed. At least I think it's a typo. Maybe it's intended. It's under the solid waste management one, the first bullet says for the development of innovative and sustainability models. Did we mean sustainability or sustainable? I didn't know how that was supposed to read.
I'm not sure I have an answer to that question. Would you vote for it if it's sustainable and you?
No, I'll vote for it either way, Chair.
All right. So I'm going to suggest that may not materially modify it, and unless is Lori on the meeting? She's probably here somewhere. If you have a thought in response to that.
I don't think it matters. I think we changed that at the last minute based, Commissioner, I think on some of your comments where we had just the sustainable business park referenced and we made it more generic. So I mean, we can fix that very easily. Put it back either way.
Reading it again, I think either way is fine. It read a little weird to me last night, but I say we just go with it as is.
That would be my preference, so we don't have ambiguity in what we're approving.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that. Okay.
Definitely. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Any other comments? I don't see any other hands up. So Pam, would you take the roll call on this one or roll vote?
Sure. Commissioner Burrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Hennessy,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner LeGrand,
Yes.
Commissioner McLeod,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Skaggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Teal,
Yes.
Chair Stuck.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Great. Well, and thank you to the entire committee for your work on this. We have probably spent a significant more effort than we have in the last year on vetting this and working on this. And as Commissioner Skaggs noted, there obviously remain issues now in some level of review, and there are really likely new issues percolating through the systems at the state and federal level that we'll continue to keep our eyes on. All right, let's move to the next item. Item number 7, which is an action item. And again, Wayman, if you would present that action.
Yes, this is a request to the board to approve up to 30 temporary staff to provide COVID emergency rental assistance services to Kent County residents through December 3rd, 2021. The COVID emergency rental assistance grant program will assist eligible renters, households experiencing difficulty making timely payments of rent and utilities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. State of Michigan, through the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, will distribute approximately $38.5 million of SERA funds to the Heart of West Michigan United Way upon execution of a subcontract agreement with Kent County Community Action. Will partner with United Way as a subrecipient to implement the program called the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Grant Program. To provide services as defined in the sub-agreement, the county will secure up to 30 temporary staff to assist residents to complete the SERA applications, review applications and documentation, determine eligibility for assistance, communicate with applicants, landlords, utility companies, process payments to landlords and utilities. The temporary positions will fill supervisor, community service assistant, community service clerk, and fiscal clerk roles through December 31 of 2021. Corporate counsel review and approve all documents as to form.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So move, Skaggs.
Support by
Is there support?
Ponstein.
Moved and supported. discussion, questions? I do have a question, Wayman, if you can respond. I listened to this go through finance as well. It was not clear to me whether KCCA is going to be asked in the subcontract to administer the full 38 million, some lesser amount. Do you know how much of the process will go through KCCA?
Jenny's been involved with this, so let's have Jenny respond to that.
Both KCCA and the Salvation Army Commissioner will be serving residents who are seeking assistance through this grant. So the applicants will be forwarded approximately half of the applicants to KCCA, the other half to Salvation Army. And then some of the total grant amount is also part of the administration that the United Way is providing over the entire program. So it is a partnership.
All right, so it's approximately half, but depending upon how it actually rolls itself out. And then you've answered the other question I had, which is the cost of these approximately 30 temporary part of the allocation in that subcontract, or are we covering the costs outside of that?
The cost will include the total cost of the county, which will be funded through the grant, is the personnel as well as the supports for our personnel like computer equipment. And we will also be involved in processing the payments to those who are eligible through our fiscal services team. So there's some expenses associated with that processing as well.
And all of that has to be administered through the end of this year?
Yes.
So the next challenge is I put my KCCA hat, find out where we're going to come up with 30 part-time employees to work
Yes.
through the end of the year.
We're working hard on that, and there are folks out in the community who need employment these days, and we are recruiting them very strategically.
All right. So I think, I'm sorry, I think Commissioner Skaggs had his hand up first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just two quick questions. One, when do we anticipate that this program will be stood up and when people can start applying?
Mhm.
And two, what efforts are we making to make sure that everyone in the community is able to access these funds if they need them? And this specifically asking, do we have multilingual support when we look to hire these folks?
Yes, we are we're conscious of the need for multilingual employees, so we are seeking that specifically. And the United Way has engaged some other community partners that can support in that meeting the needs of the multilingual community. We're working with MISHTA, United Way, Salvation Army, and our own communication staff to get the word out to the community about this resource so that they can start applying. As far as the stand-up date, we are waiting for the final version of the subaward agreement that will be between the United Way and the county. As soon as we get that in our hands, which should be today or tomorrow, we will have our corporate counsel review it, we will execute it, and then we'll start bringing staff on board to begin the program as soon as everything is set up.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, thank you. I just maybe for my information, and just don't know what I don't know. Do United Way, do they make these payments directly to DTE consumers and the landlords, or does this money go through the current folks that need the rental assistance and then they make the payment?
I didn't catch all of what you said, but I think I can answer the question. After the case managers review the documentation and confirm eligibility, as well as determine the amount of assistance that they're eligible for, then the payment will go directly from our fiscal services to the landlord or the utility company.
Excellent, thank you.
Cervantes is on if she wants to add anything.
Jenny, I think that you were correct in what you said.
Thank you.
So essentially, the criteria, the qualification criteria are set by MISTA.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? I think Commissioner Hennessy.
Thank you. It's just occurred to me that I think the moratorium on evictions only goes to the end of March. Has it been extended beyond that? How will this, affect anything that might be put in progress, in process after that point? And while I have become confused by the influx of money and how it's going to roll out to the appropriate people in the appropriate amounts, I assume that your training will take care of all that type of issue as you either control this or the Salvation Army or, the recommendations from 211. But it is confusing to me.
Right. Yeah. What's going to happen? This is Susan. I'm going to try to answer your question, Commissioner Hennessy. What's going to happen is that probably as soon as Monday, if possible, both the Salvation Army and KCCA will start taking applications. The moratorium does end on the 31st of March, and it has not been extended. So we are going to see an influx of all of those households that were not paying their bills because of the moratorium. We also have about 500 households on a wait list between KCCA and the Salvation Army, Urban League, and Community Rebuilders that will probably be eligible for this program. And so we will see those households also. So the influx on April 1st is going to be a heavy influx. Now, the criteria was set by the federal legislation and by MISTA. They added a couple of criteria, and the guidelines are the area median income guidelines that we're using. And for families between 0% and 50% area median income, there's different criteria than those families above 50% area median income to 80% median income. And so when we are dealing with a household, we're going to assess their rent situation and try to get them caught up with their arrearages. And their utilities are set by the size of family that they have in the house. So we have caps on the utilities. If they're a 1 to 2 person household, for example, they'll receive up to $1,500 of assistance. And then if families have broadband in their possession, in their names, they will be assisted with a stipend of $300 to pay for broadband if they have this service in their names.
Okay, did that respond, Commissioner Hennessy?
Yes, it'll be interesting just to see how all these timetables, March 31st, possible court action, how fast we can put these programs in motion and get people, approved for them. It certainly will be worth, a close view of in the coming weeks and months. I appreciate that we are getting the money and getting the resources to really begin to help the renters and to help the landlords as well, and to keep things like the water on because and the electric going. So I'm glad for the resources, but we'll see how it all gels.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? If not, Pam, will you go ahead and take the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Burrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Hennessy.
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner LeGrand,
Yes.
Commissioner McLeod,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Staggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Teal,
Yes.
Chair Stuck.
Yes.
That motion passes.
All right, great. Thank you. Next item is miscellaneous. Do any commissioners have any miscellaneous items to raise? Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Stack. So going back to the legislative report from Becky, she made it pretty clear that the virtual meetings are going to be coming to the end at the end of the month. Wayman, can you just kind of update? I mean, what's our plan going forward? I mean, under the new restrictions, are we able to meet in the boardroom or do we have to go across the street?
We are anticipating that two options. We can go across the street. That is being discussed. We need to confirm that. We could go to a hybrid model potentially based on the boardroom. That will take some work. So we've got that being discussed. We have 19 commissioners. It's going to be hard to fit everybody in there. So we've got that on the table. We are hoping that we can get that finalized this week. By the end of the week, Commissioner, we will have a solution that we can report out. But right now, it does appear that we may need to find a different location if we're going to have 19 commissioners in one location with the current restrictions in place about distancing and so forth and masking.
All right, any other miscellaneous? If not, just a reminder that we have a work session scheduled to start at 9:30, which we will not make. It's obviously going to be a little after that. If we adjourn here, let's give it 10 minutes so the commissioners can kind of fill their coffee cups and get back together here. So we'll convene the work session at 10:10. Otherwise, we are adjourned. Thank you all.